But then Conor's coming back and Conor gets whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Like, and Conor coming to 170, and then like that literally that's just another person where Hamzat's amazing and he's one of the biggest stars in the UFC, but Conor gets whatever he's gonna want to get. So it's just like you're gonna get pushed back in line.
Do you think Conor would want to fight the champ at 170?
Yes, because he has nothing to lose. He either becomes a champ or it's just another loss, and he doesn't care.
I feel the same way with him fighting at 155. Like he has a better chance of becoming champ at 155, and he also has nothing to lose. Like I think Conor has a worse chance of beating Leon, beating Usman, beating Hamzat, beating anyone at 170. I feel like he has a chance to beat someone like Islam. He has a chance to beat someone like Oliveira. Because I still think Conor can make 155. He's not that, like, he's big for sure. He'd have to lose muscle for sure. Yeah. But I still think he's too small at 170. Like just naturally.
Yeah, I also think the wrestling standpoint, the guys at 170 are these unbelievable wrestlers. 55 is more striking, you know what I mean? So which benefits him a lot, I honestly think what the UFC will do is I think if Charles beats Islam, they're gonna have Charles versus Conor in Brazil.
I'd love to see Conor just fight some honestly. Like, Conor just come? Like, I honestly don't care as long as Conor wins. Yeah, I'd love to see Conor versus some like. Give him another guy like just give him some guy who's like top 30 or something. I don't know.
Tony Ferguson.
Just give him Tony. Like Tony's not gonna beat Conor. But you know what? No, it's something people wanted 10 years ago, or 7 years ago.
Yeah, but the thing with Tony is like I feel like Tony just needs to retire. Like he's taking so much damage.
Give Conor Hooker. If Hooker
Hooker. I still think Conor would beat Hooker. I like that fight.
So.
I like that. Yeah.
Conor and Hooker. Maybe Conor and like again some guy who's out of the rankings. Like I don't care if Conor's in a title shot, like because I don't think he's that competitive in any title shot. I don't think he's competitive in any division in a title shot right now. I really don't.
Yeah, I think the thing about
crazy to think that Conor and Hamzat's in the same division. Like I know they're never gonna fight, but that's just like a crazy thought.
Yeah, like Conor has no chance against Hamzat Chimaev.
Yeah,
no
he's gonna get ragdolled. It's gonna be
exactly.
He's got no chance against Usman. He's got no chance against.
What do you guys think about Conor and Pimblett? Do you think they'll ever fight?
They're too far apart. They're too far apart. It's like I don't know. It's probably like 4 years away. Paddy needs he'll fight 2 to 3 times a year, but he's not going to fight Conor. And if that fight was to happen, I don't even think I'd want to watch it. Like,
really?
No. I love Conor. Like I know Conor's not British, like he's Irish, but like Paddy, it's all it's very close, right? And it's like it'll definitely happen in England. It would happen in Wembley. But I personally, from a fan perspective, like I just wouldn't care. I don't find it interesting because I don't think either of them are championship level. I love Paddy, but I don't think he's ever going to be champion. He's not that. He's not that level.
I saw them talking about Conor versus Gaethje, and I think with Conor, if I'm Conor, I would honestly, what I was thinking, I've been thinking about it for a while, but I would say you bring a guy from 155 who's never fought at 170 before, and you fight him at 170. Whether it's a Chandler, a Gaethje, one of those guys, and I think that makes sense because I don't know if you said earlier you don't see Conor ever making 155 again. I think he could make 55, but I don't think he's gonna attempt to make 55 unless it's for a belt. So I say you know what I'm saying. So so I say you get a guy like Justin Gaethje, you have him fight at 170, a weight class he's never fought at before. And you hope to win, and then a win against Justin Gaethje could bring you a title shot, even if you're fighting at 170, like you'll get the title shot at 55.
I've made this scenario once more in another podcast, but I think this is the only reason I'd want Islam to win on the weekend, because my ideal scenario for the UFC is Islam does beat Charles, and then he calls out Conor. Conor beats Islam, calling out the Habib the whole time, and then it ends up being Conor versus Habib because. No matter what anybody says, that's the dream. Conor Habib too. That's what we want. There's nothing
Imagine.
Like Conor. I would love to watch that too.
Yeah, even if we know what's gonna happen, just the build up would just be so entertaining.
Habib would never take that again. I really don't think.
Honestly, I think if Conor beat Islam, I think he would. That's the only chance.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think Conor would have a chance to beat Islam. But
yeah,
I
don't
either.
either. You know what I'm saying? Like if he does beat,
Here's the thing about Conor. I don't even think Conor beats Gaethje at 170. I don't think Conor.
I think he does beat
any of these
Gaethje.
guys. But here's the thing,
Gaethje.
man. Conor has the silk sheets thing. Like, dude, he's 34. He hasn't been taking MMA that seriously. He's been losing. The game has caught up with him. He has not been taking MMA as seriously as any of these guys that are ranked. And Gaethje is so much tougher than him. Gaethje has to fight. Like, this is what Gaethje does for a living. Conor McGregor fights as a hobby. Like, you can't be at the top of the sport if you're just fighting as a hobby. And like, that's the thing. Conor McGregor at one time was at the top of the game. He's dropped so much since then. And and even the Conor that we would get in 2023 is significantly worse than the Conor that we got in 2021 against Poirier.
Yeah. So what are five? But like, so what are the five? These Conor is going to come back at some point. So what are the 5 fights that make the most sense for Conor?
I think Dan Hooker makes sense. I think that I mean, Nate Diaz boxing, or that makes sense. I think RDA would make sense. I like that fight. RDA makes
the grappling exchanges though. I feel like that's
the thing. Conor would probably lose, but I mean, I still think that I don't think Conor in any big spot makes sense. I think if I'm Conor's manager, I'm telling Conor he should fight Dan Hooker. I'm telling Conor he should fight Nate Diaz in boxing, but I would not want him to go out there and fight. Listen, he's going to get his ass kicked if he fights anyone who's ranked.
You think he loses?
It's a bit of a weird one, but I would kind of like to see Conor versus Stephen Thompson. Like, from a striking perspective, I think it'd be a fight. And it's like,
Thompson's no longer in the UFC either. Oh, Stephen Thompson.
Yeah.
I thought I'm getting confused with Jeremy Stevens. Wonder Boy. It's an interesting fight. I don't mind that. Conor and Jorge. I think that makes sense.
You know why that fight can't happen though?
Why?
Because those are the 2 biggest draws in the UFC. And if one of them,
you have to make. They're both old. They're not going to be fighting.
That's true.
I don't think the UFC cares if Jorge loses to Conor. I don't think they care that much. Like, that's a big fight. I'd love to see that fight. Conor.
I think they do care if Conor loses though. That's the thing.
But then they should never put Conor.
It's Conor's last fight, you know. Like, he hasn't got many fights left on his contract anyway.
I think as the last fight,
I think you just gotta milk him. Like, I understand. Here's the thing. They obviously care if he loses and they want him to win, but I feel like you can't put him in a bigger spot than Jorge's the toughest guy you could give Conor that he could still potentially beat and have a decent chance against.
Yeah. I feel like you got to give Conor. It's so hard to find Conor opponents just because you have to pick, like the UFC has to handpick guys for Conor, kind of. You know, you got to give him a guy who doesn't have great wrestling, a guy who's maybe a little bit past their prime. Like there's like so much to Jorge, but like I don't know if he wins that fight. I really don't. I honestly think
that's the thing. Like, he doesn't really win any fight if you really think about it.
He beats Dan Hooker. He beats Dan Hooker or Ferguson, and I think those
those are good fights. But those are also 155. Those make sense. I don't want to see Tony fight though. He's taken too much damage.
But
I'd love to see him retire.
He's not going to retire. He's not, like, I think that I think there's a few options that the UFC would give him. I think they would give him a Hooker. I think they would give him Ferguson. I think they'd maybe give him Charles in Brazil.
Yeah.
And maybe Gaethje at like 55 or 70. Like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Conor will take what he wants to, but I think it's that ego. Like, he still feels like it's beneath him to fight a guy who's not at the top. And I think it's that bit of a delusion, which is just going to get him another loss, which is why, as a fan of Conor who wants to see him win, I don't want to see him take any of those fights. I don't think he wins them. And it's just, listen, if Conor comes back and he gets his ass kicked, like, it's such a letdown.
Sucks. You wait so long and just to see him get his ass kicked again.
I want to see him in a good fight.
The pre-fight hype, like, you always fall for the Conor charm almost. Like, nobody wants to see, like, we can say we want about Conor, but if Conor McGregor wins, everybody's better off in the UFC.
Yeah.
Like, we're better off. We're getting more views on TikToks and videos. Like, UFC is getting more pay-per-view buys. Everybody is better off when Conor wins. But, like, his ego's going to get in the way of that.
So, like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm Conor, imagine if Conor just, like, starts fighting guys that are below rank 30 and he just fights like 3 guys in a row and knocks them all out. That's big for Conor. And then
That'd be so
maybe he
sick.
can even, sharpen up his tools and actually get better by doing
Put his
that.
confidence back. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I mean, like, I respect Conor, like, for always wanting a challenge, especially with that kind of money he has. But the UFC is just a better place when Conor McGregor is winning. So I think even if it means that putting him against 3 scrubs, like you said, the UFC would do so much better with that. You know what I mean? Because everyone is like, we talked about like how Jake Paul, like a lot of times you need 2 guys to really sell. And Conor McGregor's like you don't need 2 guys. You just
we just fight Conor McGregor and get a million pay-per-views. Like,
yeah, he can fight whoever and he's getting over 1 million views. He's that big of a star. So I think you put him against a scrub, like or just an old guy who's way past his prime who's still a name, like a Ferguson. Like I mean Hooker's not, or RDA, like, like I Hooker's not like that old, never was that big of a name, but I think a Hooker fight is a winnable fight. I think Gaethje's a winnable fight at 170. I think it's a real winnable fight, especially with how hittable Gaethje is. And like Gaethje doesn't have the best gas take. Gaethje's not going to grapple you. I think the leg kicks are the concern, I would say, and Gaethje's chin being really good. You know what I mean? But I still think
he's just not tough though. Like Conor isn't as tough as he used to be.
Yeah, Gaethje's tough. Gaethje's super tough. I think that's the concern about it though. But I think Conor's accuracy is enough to beat Gaethje in my opinion. And I think that fight makes sense. Gaethje gets a win on McGregor, like he's back in there, you know what I mean? He makes a ton of money. If Conor gets a win against Gaethje, like he could call for title shots and it would make sense for him to get it, you know what I mean? And then there's more Conor fights. Every time Conor wins, there's more Conor options, you know what I mean? But I just hope that like, yeah, I don't want to see the Masvidal fight. That's one I don't want to see, at least just yet. If I had to pick one I really want to see, I would say the Gaethje, because I think that would be a really good fight too. And I would favor Conor, but do you guys like what fight do you think is gonna happen realistically? Like if you had to bet on it, like what fight do you think is who will Conor's return fight be against?
Realistically, it's a championship fight because I don't think Conor's coming back for anything less. So Charles or Islam, whoever wins.
What about you, Lucas? You think so also?
I mean, I really don't think Conor is gonna, use my strategy. So I would say. Honestly, I would say it's probably either a title fight or it's going to be Gaethje or it's going to be Masvidal.
I feel like there's a lot of like hype, like there's a lot of buzz around the Gaethje fight. So that makes me think that may be an option that the UFC are looking at. You know what I mean? So I feel like I think it's going to be Gaethje. That's what I think it's going to be Gaethje at 170. That's my prediction. I know they were talking about Chandler versus McGregor at 170. Like, I don't want to see him fight Chandler because I feel like Chandler, if he's in any sort of trouble, will take him down. And then, like, there it is, he'll win the fight, So I want him to go against a guy who's going to strike no matter what.
But the thing is with Gaethje, like, what happens if he gets into the second round with Gaethje? Like, I just think.
Dude, but Gaethje doesn't have the best gas take either. I know he's very tough.
But Gaethje's got that chin. Like, it's just gonna be a battle.
The thing is,
right now, Gaethje's tough though.
Yeah, like Conor wilts so easily these days.
Yeah. So what makes the most like who like?
What makes the most sense is him fighting Cans.
But yeah, what makes the most sense is him fighting like me. Like their point.
Yeah, like basically just some dude off the street.
Yeah,
Conor can fight the old man at the bar again that he hit, and people would tune in for that. Like just anyone who he has beef with, just get him some beef.
Like do you do Ferguson?
No, I mean like you could, but the thing is, Tony is so putting Tony in there at this point is like putting someone's grandfather in there. It's just not fair.
You're like sentencing him to just a worse and worse punishment on his like life. It seems wrong. Like it seems like there should be some sort of like UFC therapist or doctor who's like, listen, bud, like you need to draw the line here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm predicting a Gaethje fight or Charles in Brazil because of
I'm leaning more towards the Charles side of things.
I think Charles Brazil is more likely
because
if Charles wins. If Charles wins this, he's definitely fighting Conor next, probably.
You really think so?
Oh, for sure. I mean, if Conor wants to come back, then yeah.
That would be so amazing. Conor, even if Conor loses, the hype for that fight in Brazil, oh my, that would be super exciting.